Hello, dreamers, and welcome to this week's episode of Cherish, Live, and Dream. I'm your host, YaYa.
And I'm your host, Jay.
And
we are your hope dealers.
Okay, guys and gals, cousins and cousinettes, let's get into it. This week's topic is forgive yourself and move on.
It'll be good.
Yes. I done came on somebody's block, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
I done peeked in your window.
Somebody's people. You don't own the right to that song.
Who sang that?
That's so old. Like we were little. Who's that peeping in my window? I think was the name of it.
Oh.
Yeah. It's old
Music
though.
just not the same.
It's not. It's not. Some of the stuff they come up with. I could come up with it.
Yeah.
You don't want me to come up with it.
I don't know. We might want you to come up with your 16. I don't even know if it's still 16 bars these days.
It don't seem like it's any bars, to be honest. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about today.
Sorry.
All right.
So forgive yourself and move on. So this topic, I'm going to talk to you about a situation that I really had a difficult time with forgiving myself about. Okay? I have moved on, but I want to share this with you because I need somebody to get free.
Mm-hmm.
Get free and move on. So, as you all know, I went through a horrible, in my opinion, divorce. And during that time, I was just really desperate as far as wanting to not feel that pain. So, I was very, I guess you would say, vulnerable at that time. And so, during that time, that's when I met my son's dad. Shout out to Akil. Yay. So, as I was going through the divorce, had already moved into a different location, things like that, and met Akil. We started to hang out. At that time, it wasn't really anything where we were dating because he knew my situation and he knew how strongly I felt about the fact that I was still married and I didn't want to I guess, in my opinion, be an adulterer.
It happens.
Because I grew up in a very Christian household, and we were taught the biblical principles out the yin yang. Mm-hmm. So we were taught, no sex before marriage, no adultery once you got married, all that good stuff. So failed all those tests. Miserably. That's why, you know what, when people say it's how you were raised,
mm-hmm.
You could be raised in a very disciplined household, very good household, or the opposite.
That's right.
But once you become an adult, you're going to make your decisions based on how you feel that day.
That's right.
So how you were raised, really, in my opinion, it does have some bearing on you as an adult. But once you are able and realize that you can make them decisions,
mm-hmm.
There you go. So stop blaming the parents.
Stop blaming
people. Them. Okay, that's my soapbox. So anyway, we held out as long as we could.
And how long was that?
You're not very long. And so here comes Aiden, my beloved child, whom I love dearly.
Yeah.
And actually, it's a blessing in this story. I'm gonna get to it. So, oh my God, I was devastated twice, going through a divorce, and now have this child on the way by someone who is not.
Well, your husband weren't really your husband at that point either, was he?
Well, girl, no, because we were going through a divorce. So,
he still was your husband.
He was, see, that's what I'm saying. That's why I was devastated because he was still my husband. I was like, oh my God, I'm out here committing adultery. And see, that's why, you should never judge somebody for something they're doing because you may one day end up in that same situation.
Yes. Easily.
That happened to me. So I had to ask God to forgive me for judging someone else whom I knew that was in a similar situation. So really hard life lessons. So devastated, end up calling my daddy. He always just knows what to say, y'all.
I love Matthew.
It may not be PG or G, but he knows what to say.
Not with Matthew.
So when I called him and let him know the situation, let me tell you, it was funny because I said, Daddy, I'm pregnant. And he was like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is, maybe this will help you, get beyond what's going on in your life concerning your divorce. And then he paused, y'all. He was like, wait a minute. Because he knew I had already moved out. And he was like, wait a minute. Who is the daddy? And that's when I bawled and boo-hooed. So when I told him the situation, he was like, wait a minute. I need you to stop right there. He said, other people got, I'm going to say the key word, but y'all put in what you think, what you know. He said, other people got shine with them. So don't be concerned about what they think in your situation. He said, you're not the first woman in this situation, and you certainly not going to be the last. So he said, put your big girl drawers on in some form or fashion, but it was really some curse words in there. But he said, put them on, move on, get through this pregnancy, stay healthy, and we're going to help you raise this child. And so, y'all, that's what I needed to hear. And so here I am today. And still during the pregnancy, the shame was so heavy and so deep, I had to go into therapy while I was pregnant. Because my doctor was saying that she was very concerned about how depressed I was because she knew the whole entire story, the whole entire situation. And she wanted to make sure that I was okay to not only physically be able to carry my child, but to mentally be able to get through it.
That's right.
And so had them, and then even afterwards, I had postpartum depression. But thank God for my family. Thank God for Akil, my son's dad. And don't go talking about Akil because he really respected my decision, and we were two consenting adults. Okay.
That's right. Put it out there.
And so, here we are, and he's been very supportive in my life and very, very supportive to Aiden. And you guys are probably thinking, well, why aren't y'all together? Child, I don't know.
It's because of her.
Akil, I know you're going to be watching this.
Yeah.
So just, put this part on mute.
And he's a nice looking, handsome guy as well, which I don't understand. Dark skin, like I like him. You got a bald head too, don't he?
No, it's just cut really close.
But he got a goatee, right?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, so we both have strong personalities, and I think it clashes. So we are great co-parents. Great when it comes to Aiden. Great even when it just comes to being friends. But when we try to put that relationship thing together, it just didn't quite work for us. So, we'll see what the Lord says. So anyway, it took me a while, of course, through therapy and through the support of my family and friends who knew my situation at the time, I was able to get past it. And it really, for me, taught me that, listen, who cares what people think about you in terms of the choices you decided to make, in terms of who you are as a person. But like I said, depending on the situation you do, no, don't get off this podcast or talk show for the viewers and the listeners thinking that you don't need people. You do need people, but you don't need those people that's going to beat you down, make you feel worse than you already are. You need people that's going to empower you, support you, even through your bad decisions that you made. And so, yes, you may feel guilty. You may feel shame from it. You may want to go and hide under a rock. But, baby, let me tell you, that's not going to do anything but make it worse. So realize the decision that you made, own it. This was the deal. There are other millions and thousands and gazillions of people that have made the same decision. They just not talking about it.
That's right.
But I'm gonna free you today. I done shared my story. Yes, I was once a heathen. Look, I probably still am, but thank God for Jesus.
Thank God for Jesus and his forgiveness daily.
Yes.
Daily.
So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm owning it.
That's right. Own it.
And I'm no longer ashamed. And I really don't care what people have to say in terms of what I just shared if they're going to condemn me.
That's right.
Because my thought is, what are you doing? What you hiding? What kind of skeletons you got in your closet? But I really think that by me sharing this story, it's going to help somebody.
That's right.
It's going to help you. I keep saying this: get free and move on. So forgive yourself and move on. And so, Jay, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
You better stick to it, girl. So you're waiting on me to tell something that I had to forgive myself about. Well, so just like YaYa, she had a child, and I had a child out of wedlock. Meaning, when I got pregnant, I was not married to anybody. I wasn't going through a divorce. We really weren't in a relationship like that to be talking about it. But kind of. But anyway, it's complicated. It was an entanglement, I guess you want to say. But entanglement didn't exist almost 15 years ago. But it exists today. So that's a good word that I can put on it. It was an entanglement. So anyway, my issue was that if anybody knew Liza, which y'all know my mother is gone on to glory. She's been gone now for 10 years. But let me tell you something. I was 32 years old when I found out that I was pregnant. I have never been pregnant in my life before. Never. And I had been in a couple of serious relationships that lasted for some years and never got pregnant. I also prevented it too. Them crowd. Yeah, I prevented that. But anyway, so I had to tell my mother that I was pregnant, and it was the hardest thing that I ever had to do. At the age of 32, out on my own, I've been out on my own since I was 19, had my own place, good job, everything. And I scheduled a dinner with her. And I think we went to the Ale House in Cary because my mother lived in Cary. And y'all, I was so pitiful that all I did was I just slid her an envelope, and that was the picture of the sonogram of Chase. And I just slid it to her. And she was like, "What is this?" And I said, "Mom, I just need for you to open it." So she opened up the envelope and she pulled the, black and white photo out, and she was just like, "I know you're not pregnant." And she just gave me this long stare of just disappointment. I mean, it was like the walk of shame. I was just like,
looked like you was coming home with your spend the night bag.
I'm trying to tell
Making sure the neighbors didn't see you coming in the wee hours of the morning.
3 and 4 in the morning. I was so ashamed. And she sat there in silence for like 10 minutes.
I bet that felt like eternity.
It really did. I felt like I was 11 years old or something. Like I felt like I was a child. Like I was a child. And she just looked at me in disappointment. And then she said, "Well, who's the father?" I said, "Mama, you don't know."
Why I always want to know who
because nobody was, they didn't meet anybody. Nobody was around. And they knew that I wasn't like in a relationship. But apparently, it happened. So needless to say, once Chase got here, all of that, the disappointment or whatever went out the door. But there's a lot of other things that was attached to that pregnancy that I had to deal with on my own. But at the end of the day, Chase was meant to be here, just like Aiden was meant to be here, because God does not make any mistakes about having children to be created. God knew that I was going to meet Chase's father and that we were going to get together, regardless of the relationship, the way that things happened, the way that things ended. things that he had going on, the things that I had going on. Regardless of any of that, Chase was supposed to be here. And he used that particular man to get her here. Because if he wanted her here before,
Right.
it would have happened before. So I said all that to say I had to forgive myself because I did some things out of the will of God, which we all do all the time. We think things, we say things, and we do things that we should not do. But I thank God for Chase. I thank God for meeting her father because without him, there would be no Chase. And so I was more embarrassed about some things on how some things turned out, on some things that I found out, about him and about the relationship that really wasn't a relationship. In the end, that's just kind of how it ended up being. And it's okay. So I had to deal with some things on my own, and I had to carry that pregnancy on my own, like the whole entire 9 months. But the thing about it is that my mom was there
like
for
I said,
me.
When you had your mom.
Yeah, yeah. My mom was there for me. And so she forgave me. She gave me grace. God had forgiven me. And then I just had to see the good out of all of it. We can go back to what we talked about last Thursday night or last Friday. It's the same thing. It's like what I thought was bad, something good came out of it. And Chase is a complete blessing to my life.
We love Chasey Poo.
That is my baby.
Smart.
She is
beautiful.
She is,
talented,
you guys.
Talented.
Talented. But I'm telling you, she is definitely a gift from God. And I thank the Lord, although it happened the way that it happened, but everything was strategic and in his plan. And so, like I said, I was more so concerned about what my mom thought. And once I got past her and I could get through her approval or just to get it out, because once I told her, it was over. Like I was just like, this is finally over. And when that baby came, man, she bought me more stuff for Chase than she's ever bought me in my whole entire life.
Grandparents.
I'm telling. I mean, she got Chase's room painted. She got the furniture. I mean, she went all out for Chase, which of course it was still a blessing for me. But I'm just saying, like it was nothing that I could not get out of Liza when it came to Chase.
And then when I spoke earlier about the blessing out of that situation, as you guys know, I was completely devastated by the divorce, which I was not expecting. Well, whatever. I wasn't expecting my divorce.
Your situation was different.
But when I found out that I was with child, when I tell you that pain, that emptiness, and all of that I was feeling prior to finding out, it immediately disappeared. I no longer thought about that divorce as far as why was it happening, because of course I had to go through the whole finalization phases. But it's like I forgot about him. Oh, weasel. I'm healed, y'all. I'm healed. I forgot about him, and I completely was focused on my child, on Aiden, and on making sure that even though y'all, I was insanely crazy during my pregnancy. Them hormones will put you. I remember a kid was saying I was mean.
She probably was. You probably were.
During the pregnancy, but he stuck and stayed there during that whole time. He was very supportive. So I bless God. I thank God for him. And like Jay, I was with my ex, including the marriage, for about 10 years and never got pregnant. And so then I meet this crowd in a few months.
She was pregnant.
I was preggers.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Lord, what are you doing? So my dad really had to speak to me, and of course he's a biblical scholar. He can tell you where a verse is, when it was written, all of that, and he had to go through how God used the least of those in other people's eyes to work miracles. So Aiden is my miracle. Aiden is so compassionate. Aiden is just he's a very good child. I'm not saying this because he's my child. He's compassionate. He's soft spoken, But don't cross him now, because he'll get you.
He will.
And he just makes me laugh, and he just brings so much joy to my life. So
Mm-hmm.
that is what I needed. Um, the way in which it happened, but God used it, and
Mm-hmm.
He turned it into my good.
Yes.
So, you know, I forgave myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I moved on. So we're having this conversation with you guys because I think that situations that we've gone through where it was completely and totally our decision.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, we think about it. We're ashamed. We feel guilty or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
we're stuck. So we want you guys not to be stuck because
Mm-mm.
there is a life to be lived. So
Right.
live it.
Live it. Live it. Live it. So at the end of the day, what is it that you haven't forgiven yourself for? What is it that you constantly keep beating yourself up about? And then sometimes, that maybe was the choice that you had to make. Some people have
Mm.
choices that they have to make. They can be in a particular situation and it could be trauma to them, and they have to make a decision on should I or shouldn't I? And they have to make the decision that's based on what's best for them, not what's best for someone else. So sometimes, we like to get people's advice and we like to ask them, well, what would you do? And sometimes that's a hard question to ask someone when they haven't dealt with that particular situation. And so I'm so thankful that I kept Chase. Like that wasn't even anything that crossed my mind to get rid of her because of that situation. But there's someone out there that has, that there's someone out there that had to make that decision on, I'm not going to keep this child for whatever reason that it may be. And they might be struggling with that. Or someone kept the child and they still could be struggling with, maybe I shouldn't have done that. You don't know what people have to deal with. You don't know what kind of choices that they have to make. But whatever choice that you decided to make, whatever choice that you had to make, just be confident in that choice and just day by day forgive yourself for it. Because at this point, you've already done it. God allowed it to happen. At the end of the day, He really did. There is not anything that does not happen that God has not allowed to happen.
Evangelist. Girl.
Whether if it's good, bad, or indifferent.
This girl preach every week.
I really do not be trying to preach.
Y'all, we need the choir right now to bring us a selection. Because I'm about to cry. And I need an intermission.
but it is so true. It really is true, because there are some people out there that had to make a decision that they really weren't comfortable about, and they were probably at their wits end or they were up against the wall, and then they went ahead and they just did what they thought that was best.
Right.
And at that time, that probably was best for you. And so even if you have to have therapy for it, like when we say move on, and I want to make that clear too, we're not just saying that just forget about everything that you've been through and nothing shouldn't bother you and you should just forget about it. No, we're not necessarily saying that. But what we're saying is you do need to move on with life, because life is not going to stop. Time waits for no one. Okay? A minute just passed. That's now in the past. Once this show is over, at that point, that's considered the past. We have to move forward daily with anything that we have going on. But how can you move forward? How is it that you can forgive yourself? So even if you have something that you have done and it's still uneasy in your spirit, go and talk to someone about it so you can move on, so you can stop beating yourself up about a decision that you had to make, or something that happened to you in your past that you had no control over, and you felt like it was your fault because that thing happened to you, and it could have been an adult that done something to you when you were a child. Whatever that case may be, don't beat yourself over it. But if you are, therapy is needed, and therapy is real, and it is nothing wrong with talking to someone about those things so you can get some coping mechanisms to help you get through this thing daily, and then therefore you can move forward and you can start forgiving yourself little by little, piece by piece. I'm not saying that it's going to happen overnight. My situation is totally different from someone else's, but at the end of the day, I had to deal with that for 9 months by myself throughout the whole entire pregnancy. Yes, I had my mother. Yes, I had my family, but that crowd bounced. And it was fine. It was okay. And it's still okay today because that didn't stop what God had planned for her. Okay, I didn't have a clue that it was going to be that way, but God prepared me for it to be that way. And so therefore I got through it. And it is what it is. And I'm fine. I'm Gucci, you know. And so you just have to find a way to get through whatever that is. Therapy is wonderful. I suggest that to anybody. Go and talk to someone, go and get some help so you can move on. And then, therefore, once you forgive yourself, you can move on from that issue. And then you can live life to the fullest because that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to live life to the fullest, work the career that you want to work, do that hobby that you want to do that podcast that you want to do, live,
Yes.
cherish, and dream. Just because y'all had a child, while she was married, I had one out of wedlock. That did not define who we are. That did not define who God have called us to be. That has nothing to do with live, cherish, and dream. Because if it wasn't for those things, if it wasn't for our children that God wanted to be here, we wouldn't have live, cherish, and dream. We wouldn't be able to talk to you and be open to you about some of the things that we have dealt with, some of the things that we are dealing with, because there's somebody else out there right now that's probably dealing with that same situation. Oh my God, I have to tell my mom that I'm pregnant. They don't even know the guy. You might not even know him yourself. It could have been somebody you just met. I mean, let's be honest, you guys, those things happen. They happen all the time. And it's still a creation. And God wanted that baby here. So just make sure that whatever your situation is, whatever it is that you have to make a decision about, you make sure that you are fine with that decision. Don't let anybody else try to talk to you and tell you what you should and should not do in that situation, because you're the one that's going to be at the end of the day holding the bag. And you're the one mentally that's going to have to deal with whatever decision, whatever choice that you have decided to make. So make sure that you're comfortable with that decision, and it's resting easy on your heart. It's resting easy on your conscience that that's a decision that you should or should not have done. So forgive yourself and move on. And that's all I have.
And girl,
Cheers.
clink.
Right, it didn't clink.
And like I said, the last show or a previous show before, if I had something to say, I have nothing to say. But she just brought it on home. And now we will have another selection from the choir. But no, listen, guys, we just like to have fun.
We
on the
do.
show.
We do.
Just like to have
We
fun,
do.
and we hope that you benefit from us having fun, as well as the content that we share. So today's show, forgive yourself, move on. Please do that, and move on in the way that's best for you. Like she said, it could be therapy, talking to a friend, God, whomever. But just make sure you move on and you don't stay there and be stuck. So listen, again, like we say every week, we are on all social media platforms. We're actually expanding.
Yes.
So, check us out. We are not only a podcast, we're also a talk show. So to our listeners and viewers, we thank you.
Thank you.
And so, as always, cherish life moments.
Live in the present. And dream the impossible.
Yes, we're going to get it. We're
going to get it. We're going to get it. We're going to get it. But until then, you guys, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. We love you. Bye.